victory and the agony of defeat.
Madison, great ball around the corner, Petticini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, knocked away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold this!
Alrighty, hopefully there's no audio or technical issues, guys, because we're out at the Leagues Club today with the pre-game, so bear with me if there are anything. Obviously still waiting for the big fella here. No 60s right now. Oh, there we go. Got him here. Let me bring him in. There we go. 1-2 clicks and you're in. Just magic, mate. G'day, guys. See everyone in chat's been breaking down what happened out at CommBank today. Welcome to an instant reaction edition of the Tip Sheet podcast, of course. I'm your host, John, also known as 4020, and joining me, as you can see there, is my good mate, 60s. A bit of a dour look on his face, and that's probably a way of personifying what we saw out there at CommBank today. Parramatta Eels going down 20-16.
Can I just say, I just put a post up on Instagram just to say we're going live now, and the music I set it to was Boys Don't Cry. I'm trying to remember that because I felt like it. Can I just say as well, first of all, g'day to everyone that's watching live.
Plenty of regulars in chat, yep. Thank you for turning out.
Yeah. Tonight, this team has driven me to drink, and consequently, I'm hitting the hard stuff.
I was going to say, is it Coke with sugar? Like, that'd be real hard right there. Yeah, the Parramatta Eels, no doubt blowing this one, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to dive into what went wrong for the Blue and Gold. But as always, before we get into the nitty-gritty and the minutiae of the football that we saw on the field tonight, a shout-out
No, sir, I don't like it. I had to go back to the old red and be in the horde.
A shout-out to the sponsors of the Tip Sheet, which is, of course, Parramatta Leagues, home of the Eels, who were out there and graciously sponsored us today in our pre-game show, our chat with John Muggleton, and, of course, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Rowan, and Parramatta, who have been with us since day dot in terms of the Tip Sheet, and TCT. And, of course, no matter what platform you're on, the usual business there, 60s. Likes and subscribes are greatly appreciated, guys. And, of course, there's also Patreon, too, if you're interested in supporting myself and 60s and TCT beyond that. Let's talk football, mate, because the Eels, wow. Last week I was upset with the officiating, and I feel like that had a lot to do with the loss. This week, I think the officiating was just poor for both teams. There was a number of forward passes missed down that Ken Fournette side, which I think was Casey Badger's side, and both teams got away with a bit of gridiron there. But you can't be pointing your fingers at the officials here. The Eels blew this one, no doubt, mate. No doubt the Eels blew this one.
There's not even a need, really.
To go any further with the officials. Exactly. I know that people are going to be upset about the crusher call on Jermaine Hopgood, and yeah, you can argue about that one for sure. But even then, the Eels should have been in front in the context of that game. They blew this one, and you were at the game. I had the race back because we've got a big day tomorrow at the BGA Golf Day, the Ted Solkovich Memorial Golf Day, and we've got a lot to do. So I was packing and prepping all my kit. But you didn't see Jason Rolls' reaction through the game, mate, and he was doing a full Craig Bellamy up and storming around, smacking on the window. He knew.
Yeah, we did see that on the big screen.
Oh, you got a little bit of it there? Yeah.
The last play. John, do you know what? From the start, I just didn't like this game.
Yeah, we were too lateral again.
Yeah, that's it. Sideways.
And you know what the worst part is? Even playing sideways the way we did, we created opportunities against the Dolphins' edge defense, but just couldn't put it away. There were forward passes, there were drops, there were all manners of miscues and mistakes. And it's symptomatic of a team that is very much still, getting to the jogging, if not walking stages of its infancy under a new coach, right? We've got holes in the roster, we've got inexperience, we've got talent there too. Like, again, we had the opportunity to score 5-6 tries against the Dolphins, end up only scoring the 3. And we're a team that is not able to consistently find a way to win the game right now. And again, rookie coach, rebuilding roster. Unfortunately, those are things that go hand in hand. And I've seen a lot of frustration in the chat, and I emphasize massively because it was very frustrating tonight. And there are some people out in there that were pointing out several key moments, several key issues, several key players that had mistakes here and there, and it's all true. Tonight was a game where we saw a team that is very much, look, I don't know if you can call it a chrysalid just yet, in the cocoon. They might still be a bit of a caterpillar trying to get to that chrysalid stage.
John, I think, like you look at this game, there were times when the passes should have been thrown and they weren't. There were times when the passes shouldn't have been thrown and they were. It was like we pulled the wrong rein time after time after time. And when you throw in all of the lateral play, and I just think if we had played a more composed game of football where you earn the shifts, we saw the likes of Junior, Luca Moretti, Matt Dorey, when they were running straight and hard.
The Dolphins struggled.
It was bending the Dolphins line. And then you'd see like one play, maybe two at the most, up through the middle, and then next thing, whooshka, lateral play. And then whooshka, lateral play back the other way. And it was frustrating. I mean, yeah, there were times where those try-scoring opportunities were created, but you just wonder what would have been possible if they had have tired the Dolphins out through, punching it through and winning the middle before going lateral. Because the thing was, the Dolphins had us for pace. Right?
What a shock. We knew that coming in.
And I mean, it couldn't have been better exemplified than that last opportunity where Dylan stood the hammer up and the hammer just, let him run round and got him within 10 metres. And it's not like Dylan Brown is a slouch.
No, look, the Fox had a great game. He didn't help Dill much there too, though. He went infield and passed early, did a lot of the defending for the hammer. And like you said, even with everything there, the hammer still mowed Dylan down in a ridiculous amount of space, speaking to that ridiculous speed that he has. And the thing is, yes, that was a botched opportunity and it would have been an incredible way to steal a win. But, mate, the try-scoring opportunities between then, going back to the first half when Azara Yongi obviously dropped he'll be killing himself for that one. That was a bad drop. The Dylan Brown recovery from the Josh Addo break. We also had Hopgood and Walker getting it wrong in the second half. We had Gideon not finding the Fox in the first half down that left edge on halfway. They're just ones that come off the top of my head there. There's definitely a few more where the Eels, they were asking questions of the Dolphins as much as they weren't playing as directly as we wanted to see them. They still had the shape and the structure to ask questions. It's just that they could not complete them. And that was really the difference was I don't think the Dolphins asked a great deal of Parramatta tonight, by the way. They scored.
They didn't.
The Eels had them to a single try until the 60th minute when you had Conley Lenalu go across because, if anything, our defense was a little bit overzealous trying to make up speed and ground on the last tackle, and you had Nikorima step back in field and find the back rower. So, yeah, it's a very frustrating game, and frustration is probably the big word here because, yeah, clearly there were issues with the roster here today. We had some bad luck too. Bowie Simonson's gone down with a foot injury. It looks like 60s. We cannot avoid.
How unusual. We have a player with a foot injury.
Yeah, soft tissue injuries are a sign of ill preparation and maybe a bad preseason where you're not conditioning your players to the right level. Foot injuries are something you can't control. It is just rank bad luck. And Bowie, that right edge got scrambled a bit today, didn't it, 60s? Because Will Penasini goes out with a HIA early, thrusts Jordan Sam running into the action, and then Will comes back on, but then we have Bowie come out, so we're making a makeshift edge again. Not the reason why we lost this game, but it is frustrating to have another core player go down to a foot injury for sure. So it's just a little subplot to this one that definitely didn't change the result. But God, it's frustrating to have another injury. That's just my 2 cents on that one there. Look, I don't know where you want to go with this one, mate, because the Dolphins, to their credit, completed incredibly effectively. NRL.com's got them down for 35 or 39, but Fox had them down for 37 or 39. I think for a 95% or effective completion rate. So I'm not sure what the difference is here between NRL and Fox and their lab, but up against Parramatta, 77% completion rate, 34 or 44. Eels with more ball in this game, but it was both teams getting runs of possession, wasn't it? Dolphins had the early running, were able to capitalise the point. They tried the Jack Bostock. Then the Eels got a string of penalties, got themselves back into the game because of that. Hit back with Bailey Simpson down the right edge, and then the second half was a bit more seesawing in those final, I want to say 20-ish minutes, where Dolphins went bang, bang. That Lemuelu try followed up by Herbie Farnworth managing to split Moses and Smith down their left edge, our right edge. And unfortunately, Iongi took a bad angle on that play at the last line and allowed Herbie, who was a phenomenal athlete in his own right. It's not like he just brushed past Iongi without a lack of speed. The raw pace he had is obviously right up there. And that was the key moment in this game, was the Farnworth try. And unfortunately, the Eels conceding those back-to-back tries or close enough to back-to-back tries being the difference in this one, on top of the goal kicking, because Sean Russell, unfortunately, 1 from 3, did get that penalty goal in half-time, which helped us get back to level peggings at Oranges. But the big one, the try in the 72nd minute of Dylan Brown.
Was that 2 from 4?
Two from 4 with the benefit of that penalty goal, yes. 1 from 3 off the tries.
Conversions,
yeah. And the one that really hurt was the Dylan Brown try, where it wasn't quite a throw-over, but it certainly wasn't a hugely difficult kick, and he sprayed it. And that took the 2-point options by way of field goal, long-range field goal, or penalty goal for the Eels away. But then again, it wasn't like we had a lack of opportunities, because the Dolphins were fatigued 60s. We had Josh Adokar, Isaiah Iongi, Dylan Brown punching holes for them at that point in the game, but we just couldn't convert those line breaks into points.
Yeah. John, there were so many moments that were head scratching out there, and you pointed out some of them. Gideon not passing at that moment to the Fox, and that was desperately needed at that point in time, because the Dolphins had been camped in Parramatta's half for such an extended period of time, and we just couldn't get out of it. It felt like we were being strangled out of the game at that point, and that would have been such a huge advantage. Even if the Fox hadn't scored, he takes play down into the red zone at the very least, and we desperately needed it at that point. John, I didn't get to see, being live down there, and the play was at the opposite end of the field, and I was too distraught to worry about looking at the big screen for the replay. But the ball that I only put down for
in the first half,
was that a decent ball?
It was very much in the catch zone. It was right there, and he just made a meal of it. And in chat, I think it was, who was it just there? I just saw Patrick Fairbairn making a point that doesn't want to bag him, but a few crucial errors from Youngie Yongi the last couple of games. Do we just accept this as part of his learning? Do we give Josh a crack at the back for a bit? I think it's the former. I think just an acceptance that he is a young guy, going to make some mistakes. Made plenty of great plays still under the high ball, had the one bad drop, had the forward pass down that left edge too. I think that's just part and parcel of having a young fullback that we're tasking with more playmaking and big play responsibilities. And again, we want to get Josh into the team some way, somehow, 60s, but you look at our ineffectiveness through the middle on a consistent level today, and it makes you think, geez, how do you fit someone like Joash into the team with a Yongi there too? Because I don't think you drop a Yongi after what we've seen in recent weeks.
No, but here's the interesting thing, and obviously a lot of people in the chat would not have seen our conversation with Muggo in our live appearance at the Leagues Club. You got a recording of that, didn't you, John?
Yes, that should be able to come out. Well, I've got a mountain of work to get through this weekend, but
yes.
At some point we'll have it out, hopefully.
Yeah, as a standalone. So we might title that something to do with, with chat with John Muggleton live at Paraleagues, rather than, just a preview podcast, so that people are aware that it's because there's a lot that we spoke about with Muggo that wasn't about that night's game, but instead was about the team, where the team's at, how he sees individual players, what he thinks should be happening with recruitment. But I asked the question of him about Gideon Katonga, and I raise it now because his comment straight away was, because I said, do you keep him learning in NRL because he's a player of potential, or do you take him back to New South Wales Cup and he does his learning there? And Muggo straight away went to, first of all, he said he needs to be, he'd be playing him in NRL and getting his learning experience there. He said a lot of people are forgetting that the mistakes that the fullback is making. And he said he's making plenty. He's making mistakes every week, but people are glossing over that compared to how they're looking at what happens around Katonga. And he said, and no one would suggest dropping Iongi, which nobody is. But, why isn't the same leeway being expressed towards another young player who's right at the start of his NRL career as well? So it was just interesting take coming from someone who has not only been a premiership winner himself, but has an extensive experience as a coach.
Yeah, has worn both hats and has seen the struggles that young players have. And like he said, the inconsistency you can sometimes see in how players are viewed. And we did see some of the best of Gideon today, 60s. What he set up for Dylan was ridiculous. The try that led to, Dylan's try, but with the offload to Iongi, who then found Dylan. But yeah, Gideon, a player that I know some fans have been very vocal of their frustration with him because there have been some lapses, no doubt. I'm not sitting here pretending that he hasn't made mistakes. In particular, that one where he came back through the ruck against the Tigers. That was like, what are you doing sort of moment.
Yeah.
But even tonight, he didn't pass to the Fox in the first half. That was a mistake. Then he sets up what was a huge try to get us back into the contest at the end. So, like with Iongi, I think a bit of leash needs to be given to Gideon, especially given that we've had a lot of volatility on the edges this year, between halves not being there and Moses, between backs not being there and getting shifted around, Lomax, Bailey Simonson, et cetera, et cetera. Going through the team, mate, obviously a very mixed bag for Isaiah Iongi. Bailey Simonson worked hard, toiled hard, missed that last part of the game. Will Penasini had a big battle with Herbie Farnworth. Herbie definitely got the points. The try that was considered long range wasn't Will's fault, but the fact that Herbie scored that try and then held Will up in that crucial moment on the goal line where Will actually threw him to the ground was a great run, but Herbie just held on to him, got the arm on him, held on to him and let support get there in time. I don't know, going through the back line, big day for Adokar again, 240 metres, 3 line breaks, 9 tackle busts, had some big work off kick returns, got heavily involved for the ruck. It feels like he's in a rich vein of form right now, 60s. He did a lot good today. The only knock really on him was that last effort where he went in field and passed too early, but even then the Hammer probably still has it covered. Yeah. I would have liked him to have backed himself a little bit further on that run. And I guess it's a measure of people constantly thinking about the pace that the Hammer's got and, what's the best way of getting past him. And I think it puts them off their natural instincts in that situation. They're overthinking what they're doing. And I think that's what happened there with the Fox. He overthought it, passed early. What do you think of our halves, John? Dylan, it's hard to really pass how his game was. Statistically very solid, 13 runs, 173 metres. That was somewhat inflated by the support play for those tries, or that try, and then also pinching some metres off the no try for Isaiah Iongi, where I think he got 20 metres running the ball at the end there. I don't know. Dylan popped up on both sides of the ruck today, had some nice touches in that regard, helped get Bailey Simonson over. So there was some creative use of Dylan in this game, but probably not as much work down his native side as we would have liked, which is obviously the difficult balance. Mitch, 5, 6 out of 10. He tried hard, had zero traction from his middle for most of that game, almost that second half. He was being forced to kick from 20, 25, 30 metres out regularly, and he was driving it deep. But even with Mitch's phenomenal boot, there's only so much you can do there. He was, spearheading a lot of shifts both sides of the ruck when we were trying to chase points at the end. But it felt like our best attack came from Dylan Walker today, where a lot of our best work came from him, his interaction with the other middles, his ability to punish the Dolphins by having shaped inside multiple times, and then he turned it outside the Matt Dury at the start of the second half. We didn't have a great balance through the playmakers today, if I had to be honest, 60s. Again, I saw it in chat. Someone was, I think it's been the same person. I forget who I missed it. I'm just trying to see if I recognize the name in there. Maybe it was Sonic Boom. Again, lamenting a lack of the grubber kick. Oh, Michael, Mr. Oxlarge. Lacking the lament of the grubber kick. And that was definitely a factor here today, especially with when their right edge was being super aggressive early in the game, trying to jam up on our left on the spread. We should have been using that grubber kick to punish them, and it wasn't there. So I like a balance in the attack today, no doubt. But even so, we created so many attacking opportunities, just couldn't finish them.
Yeah. The reason I ask was as I was walking out of the stadium, there was a group of Eels supporters who were just venting like you wouldn't believe at both Moses and Brown. And I was thinking to myself, okay, it wasn't an 8 or 9 out of 10 game. And, you could argue that, Moses was, complicit in that lateral play. Maybe, but I mean, who knows? Maybe that was the coach's instruction for this game. You'd have to think, given how much
committed they were,
how committed to that they were, that if that wasn't the game plan, that the message would have gone out there, shut down all that lateral stuff. Let's work a bit more, earn the shift. So I don't know. And I just thought, I think these people are being a bit harsh on them. I wasn't ready to launch into praise. But is it a case of, and I'll put this to our viewers, our live people there now, if you've got players who are on, right at the top of the money tree at the club, if what they've produced isn't a 5-star performance, if it's just, getting a pass mark, should we be absolutely ripping into them? Or are there other players out there more deserving of criticism? Or is it a case of the coach got the game plan wrong with this and, the criticism is directed at Jason Riles? We got any comments there, John? Any questions that have come early?
Oh, man, there's a lot of chat going on right now. I'm just trying to read through. We've touched on some of it. But what do we got here? Let me go all the way back here because, geez, you guys have been popping off. Good stuff. It started off with Andrew, who was a bit upset, understandably, that we can't defend under 20 points in a game. Disappointing week in and week out. Yeah, again, symptomatic of a team that is far from complete, is under a rookie coach with new defensive systems, has had a lot of enforced rotation by way of the guys coming in and out via injury and suspension. And I'm not saying it's acceptable because obviously the benchmark would be having that points per game come well down 60s, around 16 points, even lower if you can, to be truly competitive. But yeah, again, this is a building roster, and these games and these points conceded are part and parcel of that territory.
Yeah. And certainly we're throwing out a pack and an interchange that very few people might have predicted.
Yeah.
During the preseason. So
Carl was flat after this one. We struggled with McMeeters coming out of our own end. Agreed.
Oh, you know what? that was one of the more frustrating things there I found at the game. Was I reckon there was at least a half a dozen times where the Dolphins pinned us in our own red zone up to about the fourth tackle, and we just couldn't seem to get any sort of leeway. It was the fifth tackle by the time we were getting over the 20, and Moses is having to kick from around 20, 25 out from the line. And even Moses with his kicking game, he's not going to kick you out of trouble.
No, not with a setback from that range, exactly.
And
it's funny because the backs did a great job numerically, a lot of production, a lot of effort, but just in that window, the Dolphins did a great job pinning us, and we just couldn't find a way to turn it until we got a little bit more adventurous, I guess, and that's when the play started opening up. Peter's a bit frustrated with Will Penasini, asking if he's got an allergy to passing the ball. Will's always been a run-first centre, but in the red zone, he tends to back himself, doesn't he, 60s? And he created some opportunities this game, but yeah. And don't forget that right edge was, I'm not saying that he doesn't do it in other weeks, because he definitely is a run-first centre. That right edge was a mess. It was a absolute, like I said, makeshift, almost a hospice out there, just guys coming in and out, like waiting to be put on ice, it felt like. But yeah, Will can be a little bit run happy sometimes, and that's certainly not an unfair criticism. Yeah, kicks raising he's got the sad emoji there at the tier. Another foot injury to one of our players. Absurd bad luck. I don't even know how he can get another foot injury, but who knows what it is with Bailey right now. We're waiting to see. I don't know if Jason Rolls' presser has come out yet and if he's added any clarity there, but I haven't seen it. Mike is saying no line speed, cannot draw and pass. Goal kicking has cost us again, true. Crucial mistakes from the same players. He calls out Will Penasini and Charlie Geimer. I don't know if Geimer did much wrong today, 60s. I don't think he got much of an opportunity, though, because Jordan Samrani took over and did a mostly pretty good job. There was one miss on Cody Nikorima at one point in the first half, but I thought that he, putting aside frustrations of Geimer from Michael there, that we saw Samrani starting to warm to the task on the edge there, and he had a drop on the goal line, which was a tough one on the last tackle, but he also set up the Matt Dury try for a great run off Mitchell Moses in the second half.
Yep. John, I can't escape this flat feeling that I had after this game.
Yeah.
Like I'm just really, really flat from it. There was a point in this game where, and it's probably where the Dolphins jumped out to that 8-point lead, and I thought to myself, they've had limited opportunities to strike. They've managed to get over the line, get the ball down. They've iced every goal kicking opportunity that they had. Are we destined for the spoon?
Look, it's a very real concern. I think anyone that's pretending that we aren't, and we often get slated as being overly optimistic, but you got to be realistic about this. The Eels are 100% staring down the barrel of the spoon right now. Not to say that they can't turn it around. There are still a lot of games to be played, and we've seen good signs in the last 3 weeks, even tonight, with our ability to attack while flat, flat both on the field and flat in terms of energy. But you've seen other teams starting to come good, the Roosters, the Panthers. The Rabbitohs are falling down the ladder a little bit, but you're probably looking at the Titans. Maybe the wheels come off at Newcastle. I don't know. But the Eels have to start taking care of business and fast to not even be a factor for the 8, which is getting further and further away, but to avoid another piece of cutlery. And that's it's going to be contingent on some good luck of injuries, 60s, maybe some mid-season recruitment, maybe you can't even say throwing in young guys, because if anything, that probably adds to the volatility of the week-to-week roster situation. But yeah, it's a very real concern, and it is going to loom larger and larger with each loss moving forwards.
Yeah, last week I genuinely thought that Zach Lomax in that team, and refereeing shit standards aside, but Zach Lomax in that team, and they may well get that decision over the Sharks. And I probably felt similarly tonight, that Zach Lomax in the team and a good chance that they get the job done, simply because he's a strike player in a game where you would have imagined that the way they were playing, he gets plenty of ball. Now, I didn't like the way they were playing. I'm emphasising that. I think one of the reasons that we lost was the type of football that we'd set out to play. You and I have talked about this so many times over the years, John, that we don't like a team playing football where they haven't earned the right to shift the ball. And it felt like that all night. But I don't know, like, I feel that things could go one of two ways. I mean, maybe they get on a little bit of a run with Lomax in the team, but I mean, we're about to potentially be without Moses for some, a couple of Origin games, and we just, it feels like we can't cope with a missing player or two. No,
that's fair.
Don't get me wrong. Like we've had some significant injury problems, but when it's a key player or two, we just can't get round it. And at the start of the year, we were all enthused about Lomax and Moses playing together and the sort of combination that could create. And what have we just gone 10 rounds and we haven't had them play together for one game?
Probably the most Parramatta thing you could mention about this year, isn't it? Having your star playmaker and your star recruit not playing at all together. And like you said, there is an issue, and this goes obviously well beyond Jason Rolls. This goes through to not just Brad Arthur, but prior to that too. It's been a real issue for Parramatta is if they're not full strength, the lack of resilience really starts to emerge. And we've had games where they've shown character. I think under BA there was one in particular against South Sydney where we were down to maybe one player on the bench, and that was a real great gutsy effort. But consistently across multiple games, across multiple seasons, if we're not 90, 95% capacity or top capacity, it feels like we get exposed, and it is frustrating.
Well, we were exposed in the first two rounds, most definitely, without Moses. Like, we were embarrassed in that game.
Mm-hmm.
We were embarrassed against the Raiders up in Darwin. But I'm prepared to even put that aside and say, see you later, Darwin. We don't have to think about that. And look, we can look at some of the games that we've had. So, the closer games that we've had this year and go on, we could have won this one, we could have won that one. The reality tonight is that the Dolphins had a couple of strike players. The half played well tonight. But, they're not a top 8 team. They're, maybe at best a 10th to 12th place team.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at home and we just butchered try after try in front of the home fans in a game we should have won, a game that we should have been determined to win. And it's not a case in this game that there was no resilience or anything like that. It's just that it just didn't feel like clever football tonight. It just didn't feel like that they were playing the style of football that could have won them the game. And, it just, as I said, I'm just really, really flat after that. And you can probably tell from my demeanour. Last week I was angry because
fire in the belly over the handling of the game, and then
but there was stuff out of, like, there was a lot that was out of our control.
And again, if the Eels played with the same energy this week that they did last week, they win, and that's been transplantable to a number of results now, where you can point to a game or two, like against the Tigers, like against the Sharks, and then maybe one or two more, and say, have you brought that energy to another game? You would have been on 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. But the inconsistency is what's dogging them right now. And it feels like they will work on one thing on a week-to-week basis, but then give away something else. And there are certain week-to-week issues that we're seeing consistently. I think I've seen it in chat. There's been some concern about the size of the pack, trying to go small ball. Maybe it's costing us. I think that's definitely in play. I think we're also victims of our reputation when it comes to wrestling in the ruck 60s. We've spoken about this before, but it feels like anytime we do try to compete in the ruck with the wrestle, we get absolutely annihilated by the officials. But I saw Jay in chat saying that the bench has consistently outplayed the starters, and he wants to see us recruit an alpha dog or two in the middle, which, again, not an unfair statement. The Eels obviously have the cap space to go out and make some splashes. I don't know who they can get, though. That's the big question is, we know that being contracted doesn't necessarily mean all that much these days, but we haven't been linked to any real alphas, big personas, big bodies in the middle, and you need at least one of them, right? Like one plus another solid recruit, some good development coming through, that would certainly be accelerating that rebuild, putting us back into a competitive cycle much faster. But the concern now is, of course, with the news about the Bears coming in 2027, with PNG coming in 2028, right? That I say concern. This is a really interesting situation now, because smart recruitment, even then, almost turbocharges your rebuild, because the competition is going to get weaker because there are two more teams coming in. So if you can play your cards right and time your run right, you can peak at a time where everyone else is going to have their talent pulled out. But we're still a long way from it. I see people saying throw the bag at Tino, Fafita from Jay. I'll be willing to throw the dice, roll the dice on Fafita. I know that
I don't think it's going to happen.
You don't think it's going to happen? So, yeah, but there's first word from the big fella there. Let's not write it off just yet, but it's certainly not a great indication if you're shaking your head out.
I'd be happy for it to happen. I don't think it will.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think the club will probably see it as a cost issue, and maybe a risky, expense.
It is. But rugby league and professional sports is just a case of risk management, though, isn't it? At some point,
yeah, it is. I'd probably recruit him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and obviously the club would have much better intel on the perceived personality and work ethic issues that have been pervading Fafita in his time at the Titans. The numbers speak otherwise. If you 145 meters a game, tackling at over 92% effective tackle rate up until this year. So the numbers look fine, but obviously there might be more behind the curtains. So I guess we trust the club in that regard. But this is a criticism we had with the club under BA, both him and the recruitment team being risk adverse or too risk adverse at the high end, willing to constantly try and roll the dice on diamonds in the rough or reclamation projects, but not pulling the trigger on Farnworths and Stags and those sort of players. Papawi. Fafita's obviously got supreme talent. He's only 25 this year, turned 25 earlier this year. I don't know. If you're not pulling the trigger on him, I'm not really sure who you're pulling the trigger on.
Well, John, if we look at it this way, you've got Junior on a historically, quite well remunerated contract. And outside of that, given the loss of Dylan Brown, you've only got the likes of Moses and Lomax, who you'd consider to be, high-end contract players. So I think that basically says you've got to be throwing a big contract player or two some interest. You have to be. We've got to compete in the market there. I get sick of saying over and over and over again, you cannot afford to waste the Mitch Moses years. Why have the second or third best halfback in the world invest all that money that we're investing in Mitch, have him as such a great mentor at training, because you see him at training and he's working with the players on his own, like in extras, that sort of thing, about exactly where he wants them to run. His edge players, he's just over and over again. If I get to here, you've got to be to there. It's as basic and straightforward as that. And you just think, let's put some class around him. You know, like it can't be a case of continually looking to roll the dice with fringe players. And look, I think we've come up trumps with the recruitment for this year. I really believe that they deserve credit, the recruitment team, for who they've picked up this year. We've picked up high value players. Dylan Walker's a high value recruit that's been picked up mid-season. Jordan Samrani's going to be a great return on investment. Iongi's an investment in the future and going well. The Fox, the Fox hasn't cost us very much money at all. Look at how he's performing every week. You know, like these sorts of additions have worked for us, but we're sitting at the bottom of the table. What do we got to do to get off the bottom of the table? We're going to have to recruit, and we're going to have to spend. Like, it is no good just looking at more high value players. They're not going to get you a title. We need some quality put around Mitch Moses.
Yep.
Obviously, you know, we're talking about Galvin with one of those in the halves, but a middle, an edge. Let's get some tough mongrel players in there that will intimidate and get over the top of their opponents.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Again, you can probably tell how flat I am after tonight. I know we all have to be patient, but you saw tonight we had 11,000 people there. That's a lot of members that haven't turned up for the game tonight. And I know there's people in different, you know, there's Thursday night is not good for people. People have got work the next day. It's no good for kids with school the next day. All those sorts of things. But and of course it's an out of state team that doesn't have a big following in Sydney. All right, so there's all these sorts of factors. But you know, the year's going to get tougher because people aren't going to turn up to watch a team. And there's probably games where we're going to sit there and it's going to be flat. And man, I just did not like it one bit tonight. Like, there just wasn't anything in the crowd. Even when we were had the lead, it was flat out there. Like, it just really was. It just, I don't know. Well, it wasn't an enjoyable game to be at, even when we were leading. You know, I don't know what else to say about it. You know, like, yuck. Yuck. So, John, unless we've got some questions, I'm just about spent for the day. It's a long day. Here we are. It's after 11 o'clock at night. We're live. We've got a big day tomorrow out of the BGA golf day. So, you know, we're out there. It's from 6:30 in the morning. So I don't know about you, but it's like we'll be up 4:35 in the morning to get out there. So
I would like to go through chat and answer more questions, guys. But like Craig said, we have a very early start tomorrow, and it's a long day out at the golf course with the BGA, the Ted Solkowitz Memorial Golf Day. It's a fantastic event, and we're going to be very happy to bring you guys some coverage of that coming out of the weekend. But we do have a very big day, so yeah, real shit loss, guys. No need to sugarcoat it. The Eels absolutely blew this one. And I can see a lot of strong reactions in chat from it. I understand everyone's frustrations. Look, there are clearly issues with the roster, but I do think Riles does have a vision here. And like you said, 60s, there does need to be patience, but that doesn't mean that fans can't vent on the way down that path, especially when you have results like tonight. You know,
yeah, absolutely. Can I just, John, very quickly say, for me, however, there was a high point tonight, and that was the number of people that that we had at their live appearance in Sturlows tonight in Parramatta Leagues Club. The number of people who, made a point of coming over and saying hello or just sort of grabbing us as walking past to say, hey, how you doing? So a lot of regular podcast listeners, we really do appreciate that tonight, that level of support. And even the people that got there, just after the podcast was over and just said, look, just wanted to, poke my head in and say g'day and, would have liked to have been here earlier, but, just got home from work and et cetera. So, look, it's a real high point for us, having that reach and that people feel connected via the podcast. Yes, we'd probably like to dive a little bit further into the conversations that are there, but sorry, people. That was just it was a shit game. We just feel pretty flat, and I'm sure you understand where we're coming from with that. So, John, again, thank you for tonight. Thank you, everyone that tuned in live. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta Leagues Club, the home of the Eels. I'm struggling to say it tonight, John. Go you mighty Eels.
Yeah, you still got to say it, mate. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you soon.